Hey guys, it's Dr. Beard again, and I have a very, very special guest with me today. I have Hale, who is one of our health coaches, health coach extraordinaire, as I often refer to her. And today we're going to talk about how to feed your kids on a budget, but do it in a healthy way. And if anybody knows how to do this, it's Hale. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Annie, but before we get started, you know what we've got to do.
I don't take nothing that a doctor don't prescribe. I don't do no drugs, man. I don't do no drugs, man. I don't smoke no bud, man. I don't do no drugs, man. It angers up that blood, man, so I don't do no drugs.
All right, okay, and then we're back, and you know what I got to do now. This content is for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended to provide medical advice or to take the place of medical advice or treatment from a personal physician. And I'm not your personal physician. I might be, I don't know.
You're mine.
In fact, yes, I'm glad you brought that up because I met Annie, how long ago was it? 2015, 14 maybe? Probably 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. You were a patient of mine at the very beginning of my functional medicine journey. And I remember Annie talking to me about coconut oil. And as a dietitian, I was like, we were always taught that was just horrible for you. Stay away from it at all costs. And you were using it. And I was just like, well, she looks pretty healthy. So, I remember you talking to me about things like, using going natural. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool, and so you kind of sparked some more interest for me in that area. And so glad you did, because it allowed me to continue to look into those types of things. And so, here we are.
Here we are.
And when I first met Annie, she had 6 kids, and that to me was I was so impressed. Not just that she had 6 kids, but she was always so calm, put together, and did not look like she was, just losing it. And I was like, this chick's got it going on. And I thought, okay, so who is going to be the perfect person to help me with this podcast today? First person that came to my mind was Hale. Not just because you have 6 kids, but you work with our patients who have children, who have issues, and who need to be, need to clean up their diet. And you've done such a great job with so many of our patients in these situations. And I'm going to let Annie kind of talk to you today about how she manages a family of 8 and how she's able to feed them in a very healthy way on a budget. All right. Yeah. Okay, so Annie, how do you do it? I'm still amazed at how you can do this.
Well, if you can hear in the background, I'm not currently doing it. My husband's doing it right now, and that's a big part of the equation is we are a team. And God bless those mamas out there who are flying solo and cooking, doing everything on their own. I'm very blessed to have a husband who's, I've recently found out, a better cook than I am. Very humbling, but very rewarding in many ways as well. So we're a team for sure. And as far as how we do it, it has been such a learning process. I mean, our oldest is almost 18, so we've been doing this a long time.
I know, it's still crazy that she's almost that old.
Yes, and there was a time when she was little bitty that I was thinking an appropriate breakfast was French toast sticks, out of the freezer section, and having to educate myself as we had more and more children and their growing needs and my growing education in health and wellness over the past 18 years. That has spurred a lot of change in our kitchen and then therefore in our health and in our bodies. And watching your children grow and not see them have health struggles, not see them have weight struggles, not see them have skin issues, not see them struggle the way so many of their peers are. They see that too as they get a little older, and they start paying attention. But as a parent, you know, you have an eagle eye on everything that your kid is doing and how they're behaving and how they're looking on a particular day. Do they look a little tired or whatever? And I'd say as we've watched them over the years, we have shifted and become more and more conscientious about how we're feeding them.
Right.
So how we do it has changed dramatically over the last 18 years, but I think it's become more and more simplified and sustainable.
Yep.
And Lord willing, something that they take out of our home into their own homes.
Yes, you've empowered them with a lot of great skills, knowledge, and habits that are only going to help them in the long term. And it's not just me being the bad guy here telling you need to feed your kids better, all right? There's a reason that I'm always harping on this about food is medicine. Stop feeding your kids poison, because most of it really is. It's because you and I see the transformations that occur in a lot of children and even adults when they make these changes, which are often just kind of simple sometimes.
Super simple.
We're not asking you just to start eating tofu every day, all right?
No.
It's just being a little bit more conscientious about a few key things can make all the difference in the world.
Absolutely. And where it started with us was a very simple conversation. And so if you don't know where to start as a parent in making changes, this is one way to go about it. Is I brought out a particular box of food that obviously it's a processed food, and then I brought out, I think it was some type of vegetable, and set it on the table and was like, okay, tell me which one is food. Let's just talk at the dinner table. Tell me which one's food. And they're all like, well, they're both food. Well, how do you know that? Well, because we bought it at the grocery store. Ding.
Yeah.
Okay, not everything sold to you in a store or a restaurant is actual food. How do you know something's food? And just teaching them that.
That's a mind shift.
It is a mind shift, but even our youngest at 8 will be like, that's not food. It's yummy, but it's not food.
So she knows that. I mean, that's incredible that an 8-year-old would take that away and learn from that. But I mean, I'm not surprised. Your kids are super smart and so cute, like the cutest kids ever. Now, I know you're probably just rolling your eyes right now, but they really are. They're adorable, and they, like you said, these kids they're not sick.
Right. They are. For the most part.
None of them have weight issues. Right. They're very active. But I mean, you and Kevin are great parents, and so that plays a big part too in their behavior as well. So a lot of it is diet, but of course, the other things play a part as well.
Sure.
Some good old discipline and good parenting. So. Your youngest is about to be 9.
Yes, on Thursday.
And then your oldest is 18.
Will be 18 in February.
February, right. So that's quite the spread.
Yes, it is.
And do you have picky eaters?
Oh, we've always had picky eaters. Everyone goes through different stages. Sometimes they're, one will be very, very picky for a month or two, and then they'll try anything. So we learned to quit relying on them to set the climate, and that we would just put it out there, and if they're hungry, they're going to eat.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that? Can you repeat that again, Annie?
Yes, if they are hungry, they are going to eat. And not being afraid, because if I'm afraid of them melting down in their behavior because they didn't eat as much at a meal, well, what's their behavior going to be if I let them eat something that I know is not going to be great for them? And so, yeah, we have had picky eaters, and I think that we understand that. Sometimes it's texture, sometimes it's flavor. We get it. Sometimes it's smell. Sometimes it's mom's in the kitchen and not dad. They definitely prefer him. I don't blame them.
See, so Annie's another one that will cook, but isn't necessarily the top thing on your list, right?
No.
And certainly not mine.
No.
Even though I'm a dietitian.
Yeah.
And I don't really care to cook.
Yeah.
Like to eat it. Don't care to cook it.
Yeah. I think I enjoy studying. I enjoy research. I enjoy being with people and helping them and I'm not one of, please, if you have the homeschool mom of 6 image in your head of me in the kitchen wearing an apron for 8 hours a day.
If you ever worn an apron.
Accidentally, maybe. I did dress up as like a coffee shop owner one time and wore an apron. That's not me.
I thought you were going to say a French maid, but anyway. Anyway.
Okay. So, yeah, I'm not that. I do know where the organic canned vegetables are. I do know where all the chopped, pre-peeled, frozen produce is. Right. I do know the simple hacks, and do feel like that if a busy mom of 6, all of them are schooled within our home, active in ministry with my husband, love my job as one of your health coaches, and don't love to cook. If I can help make sure this happens in our household, really anyone can.
And on a budget, too.
And on a budget.
We all have budgets.
Gracious, yes.
And it can get expensive. And I know everybody wants to say, well, I can't eat organic. It's too expensive. I would say it's too expensive not to do. You may pay for it now. You can either pay for it a little bit now,
for sure,
or you're going to pay a lot more for it down the road.
Absolutely.
Is organic that important? Yes. Mm-hmm. The glyphosate issues and the GMO issues are bigger than you really can understand.
Absolutely.
And it's having a lot of detrimental impacts on people's health. And I don't care what you may read in the magazines that say it's fine. It's not okay. And in fact, when I have tested glyphosate levels on people who, the ones that consume organic primarily, super low glyphosate levels. The ones who it's whatever, really high glyphosate levels.
Yes.
So we are able to pick this stuff up on testing.
Yeah.
And glyphosate is a toxin. It's very harmful to your mitochondria, and the mitochondria are in every one of your cells in your body, except red blood cells. So. Anyway, just wanted to throw that out there because I want people to understand why we're even talking about this today. Because we care about your kids' health. Paul and I just finished a podcast about kids' behavior and their school performance and the relationship between their diet, and it's huge.
Yes.
We see this.
Yes.
We see this all the time in our practice. And if you want your kids to reach their full potential, you want them to be healthy. The diet is the biggest place you can have this impact on their health and their behavior and their school performance.
100%.
So why would you not do that?
Absolutely. And we talk to our patients a lot about their normal and how sometimes they adapt and their normal becomes something actually pretty unhealthy, but it's been such a slow transition that they didn't even notice it was happening. And I think the same thing happens with our children. We just maybe attribute it to a growth spurt or teenage years or things like that, and not factor in organic or non-organic foods, food dyes,
food sensitivities,
things like that we think, I can't pick another battle with my kid.
Right.
Well, it's not a battle if it's just not there in the house.
Yes. Don't bring it into the house.
No. Yeah.
And same thing with you.
Thank you. Paul, you need a hush right now.
Do say about the dirty 12, the organic, because you don't have to spend all the organic.
That's true.
Yeah, and there is, a lot of you have probably heard of the Dirty Dozen, and those are the ones that you really want to buy organic.
Right.
Not everything needs to be organic, so you need to familiarize yourself with that list. It's called the Dirty Dozen. You can do a quick Google search and you'll pull it up real quick, and you can see right there what you really need to buy organic and what you really don't need to be buying organic.
Yes.
And that'll save you some money right there.
Right there. Yeah.
Tell me some other budget tips, Annie, that you've come across.
Yeah. So we are a family of 8, and in February we'll have 4 out of the 6 kids will be teenagers. So growing
I'll be
bodies.
praying for you every night.
Yes. Most of them are rapidly getting taller than I am, and I'm 5'8". So hefty appetites for sure. So we keep a lot of things around that are going to be filling, that are quality things, good quality fats, good quality nut butters, and things like that they can put on some fruit and really bring up their satiety levels, and they're not just searching for junk. But as far as budget tips, I would say finding ways to incorporate in some less expensive whole foods, like legumes. One of my favorites. And you might need some of Amy Beard MD enzymes to,
Or prepare them in a way that
prepare them.
gets rid of the things that can
Yes.
make them problematic for some people. Like requires soaking them overnight and things like that. It's like our grandparents used to do.
Exactly.
But beans is a good one. That's super cheap.
Super cheap, and it's that time of year where everyone's
Soup.
looking for that. Yes. So I would say keeping, we don't eat animal protein for our dinners every single night of the week. That would be a budget buster
Yes.
for us.
And you don't need to. You will live without protein at or animal protein at every meal.
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. So we really focus half the week at least on getting protein from other sources, such as legumes or quinoa. Now, my kids, I did not prepare quinoa well for the first few times. And so when I would grocery shop for it, to be completely transparent, they would hide it from me. They would hide it in like oatmeal containers and things. And I would go to prepare dinner and not find it and be like, I guess I didn't buy it. And I had, by the time I figured it out, they had
Like
hid
10 pounds of quinoa.
3 packages of quinoa, yeah. So, but adding that to a vegetable-based soup, I mean, it has a great protein profile to it, and it's going to keep them nice and full.
Do you use frozen vegetables?
We do, depending on seasonally.
Yeah.
We'll do, or convenience. If we have a busy evening, and I haven't planned quite as well as I wanted to, then we'll grab frozen instead of chopping. Now, the man in the kitchen right now, my husband, thinks to buy a bag of frozen onions is like, it's really a shortcut that he's not willing to take. But I will buy the organic frozen chopped onions.
Paul's shaking his head over there.
I
No
know.
way.
They're on the same team, I know. But my kids don't taste the difference. They don't go, this is not freshly chopped onion. So I do buy.
Their palates are that.
Not that refined.
Developed yet?
No. So we do buy frozen produce in various forms, and
Because it's good. It's picked at its freshest.
it is.
And they flash freeze that stuff right there on the spot. So it's pretty darn fresh. I'm a big fan of the frozen too.
Yes.
If you don't have access to the fresh.
Oh yeah.
Because the seasonal, you don't want to buy a bunch of vegetables out of season. They're no good. I mean, those pink tasteless tomatoes.
I know.
In December, who wants that? I would forego them at
Absolutely.
Nope, can't do that.
Absolutely. Yes. And so, we do buy the frozen produce, and we do incorporate other protein varieties other than animal protein. But we also really listen to our kids. You and I both know that we don't feel like eating the same amount of food every single day. And so we don't panic and we don't freak out if there's a kid that's their appetite's just gone way down, and they just aren't eating as much or not as interested in food as they were.
Because they'll eat when they're hungry.
They'll eat when they're hungry, and they're going to grow, and the voracious appetite will come back. So we just don't panic about things like that. We've learned, I remember as a mom of little ones, all you want to do is see your child eat. If they're eating, they're going to live, and they're going to, thrive. But man, it's so important what they're putting in their mouths.
I know. I have a nephew who I was like, we were like, does he ever eat?
Right.
I'm like, I need to see this kid eat. I'm kind of getting concerned, but he's the tiniest little thing. He's just he hasn't hit his growth spurt, and so, but it's starting to pick up a little bit more. But everybody was always kind of concerned because he would eat literally like a bird.
Yeah.
And you're like, how is he alive right now? But he got through it. Yeah.
Yes.
And I wish those two. I would pay you if you would take those two kids, my niece and nephew, and just kind of do a boot camp on them for about a week or two. I've given up. Anyway, they're not my kids. There's only so much you can do. You had mentioned, so we've talked about kind of do your kids eat a lot of fruit?
They do. Fruit is the main snack option.
Okay.
And we like for them to incorporate it with a fat. So, but they'll tell you every day.
To make it last longer?
To make it last
and
longer so it doesn't spike the blood sugar.
Right,
and
the
they're
glycemic
crashing.
effect, yeah.
Yes, I don't want them crashing 50 minutes later and biting their sibling's head off. So we try to get them to incorporate a fruit with a fat, just making sure they're getting their fiber and those nutrients they might miss otherwise. So not having other snack foods in your house, moms, if you are looking for a way to cut down on your budget and grocery, stop buying the snack foods. The snack food industry is just absolutely bankrupt.
It dominates the store. That's the majority of the store is
Yes.
processed junk.
Yes, absolutely. And the marketing, you're not yourself when you're hungry type of marketing is just so sly.
It is.
And truly, growing children might need those snacks, but man, there's nothing less convenient about grabbing an apple and some almond butter or something like that.
That's one of my favorite snacks.
Yes, yes.
You know, and it's just I think a lot of parents are comparing. I know they feel like they might be depriving their child because their dinner, their lunch looks so different than this other kid's who's just full of all the typical snacks that I see people posting on social media about what they're feeding their kids, and it's always making me cringe. Like, oh my gosh, you just told me the kid had strep throat last week, and now it's okay. Now I'm making the connection.
Yep.
So that's good. Okay, so you have them pair a fruit with a fat or something with some protein. That's a good advice. So, and you just you don't buy it. Mm-mm. They don't have the option, people. They do not have the option of eating poison.
They don't. No, even if we're buying a breakfast cereal, it's going to be a gluten-free, dye-free, bare bones breakfast cereal with unsweetened almond milk, and they've just adapted to that over the years. And if they spend the night with someone else, they're going to see other things. They're also going to feel the difference because when it's not a part of their regular diet, they feel the ramifications of eating that way very, very quickly. And as my children have gotten older, it's become their decision when they have adapted their eating. It's on them. I am not policing their food.
But you've taught them. You've taught them how to read labels.
Yes. And
she has taught her children how to read labels.
Yes. So important.
What do you have them look for?
First of all, I just put the label in front of them, if we're having these conversations at dinner, and say, what do you know? What words do you know? What can you identify as an actual food ingredient? And certainly there are some things that are actually food that are labeled just strangely.
Right,
and
the vitamins and things like that, yeah.
Yes. But for the most part, if it's this laundry list of ingredients that they really don't know what most of them are, I'll just ask them, how do you think your body breaks that down and process? How do you think your body uses that? And how do you think it affects you? What are all the possibilities? So teaching them to read those labels and just, because I don't want them going around judging other people for what they're eating either. But
they could educate their friends a little bit,
Yeah, I want them educated and empowered for certain. And I don't want them believing that just because it's a restaurant that they can drive through, that's food, that's healthy food. I know they'll do it some, but I don't want them to be tricked into just being gullible about all of that. Convenience
is killing us.
Yes. It really
is. It's killing us, and at some point you've just got to, you've really got to you got to put it away. And you've got to pick another way.
You've got to pick another way, and you've got everything unfamiliar. This is what I tell our patients all the time. Everything unfamiliar feels inconvenient. The more you familiarize yourself with this way of eating, and the more your children do, the more convenient it becomes. I mean, there's no difference between going in and buying, your traditional processed box of food and buying a bag of quinoa. It takes the exact same amount of time to walk those aisles in the grocery store. It's just one is familiar and you know exactly where you're going, and one is not. Well, take a week and get familiar with it. Give yourself a lot of grace. Maybe just shoot for a couple of nights a week where you're transitioning. And we've had some real bombs of meals. we just laugh about, and we're like, okay, sometimes you lose. Moving on,
Yeah, it looks like cereal for supper.
Exactly.
Right?
It happens. We do a lot of smoothies as our
backup. That's a good
plan.
one. Yeah.
Yes, or Sunday after church when everyone's just like going to eat the next person they see. It's okay, great. We've got all kinds of great smoothie options. That's a quick fix. So,
but you had told me that your kids actually look at the labels for food dyes and high fructose corn syrup.
Yes.
And I thought that was great because those are two things your kids definitely do not need.
No.
Food dyes impact the way your digestive enzymes work.
Yeah.
You do not digest your food well. And I know several kids that go crazy, and their parents will tell you if they get a hold of red food dye, blue food dye, whatever it is, they know.
Yes.
And then they're looking around trying to find out where they got it.
Absolutely.
Because they have been poisoned by the food dyes. Same thing for the high fructose corn syrup. That's a good way to really harm your GI microbiome, is consuming that stuff. 100%. We were not meant to eat that.
No.
So avoid it.
Yeah, 100%. And honestly, it just took one of the older siblings having one interaction with red food dye, got a terrible headache. That was bought, while he was gone doing something else, and he came home with a terrible headache. And I said, "What'd you eat? What'd you drink? Tell me, what'd you have?" And he mentioned that, and I said, "Let's look up the label online." And he saw that and was like, "Red 40. Why is there red 40 in this drink?" And
because it makes it look pretty.
Exactly.
They even put yellow food dye in pepperoncini peppers.
Yes.
And I'm like, why is that even necessary?
Yes. And some of check your vitamin C.
Yes. They really put that stuff in all kinds of things that you would never even suspect. It's not just in your candies and things like that.
No.
It's in literally almost all kinds of stuff.
Yes, it really is. And it will hijack their brains. I can see it so quickly and so easily. And, if you live in any type of neighborhood situation and your kids are in your neighbors' homes, and goodness, during this COVID situation, our neighbor across the street, we joke that we're co-parenting now. And so our kids will end up in each other's homes for snack time. And, I had to just say, hey, this was about the time the school year was starting, and just said, we really stay away from food dyes and a lot of processed sugar. So feel free to send them home for snacks, or if you want to offer them fruit, go for it. That's so generous of you. But just putting it out there. Like,
did she look at you like you're an alien?
No, she said, we really want to avoid those things too.
Oh,
Thanks
that's
for saying
great!
something.
Awesome. Maybe you've converted her over to that way.
She's a wonderful mom, but that's an only child, and so if you have one child, I might be tempted to buy all the things with the cartoon characters on them and stuff like that too. And so you would be surprised as moms with your friends how liberating. And I tell this to my older children too. You'd be surprised how you liberate others when you're willing to be vulnerable and honest enough to say, that doesn't sit so well with me, or I really don't love the way I feel after eating that. I'm going to choose this instead. Because, when you're in a group, you don't want to be the odd man out. And sure enough, if you can do that, anyone else there who has that level of awareness will appreciate you for it.
Right.
And probably speak up for themselves as well.
And, anytime you change your child's diet, and especially decreasing the amount of sugar, fat, especially the bad fats that are in all the processed foods, and salt, which is also in high amounts there too. Not that salt is bad. Sure. It's bad because it's in all the processed foods, and that's what everybody's eating. So, of course, they're getting a ton of sodium,
everywhere.
All right? And so your taste buds will adapt.
Yes.
If you give them about, 2-3 weeks, they'll adapt. And then they won't be craving all that sugar all the time, or it'll only take a little bit of, just a little bit to satisfy them. A piece of fruit will be enough.
It will be enough. I can't remember how many days. It's either 7 or 10 days you get a new set of taste buds.
Yep.
And that just giving it time to detox out of their systems a little bit, and expect a little bit of erratic behavior as they detox. It's fine. They're fine. Yep. But when they're eating all these sodium-laden snacks and foods, what are they going to be? More thirsty.
Yep.
And if you have other options besides water, that's just going to mess with their
Yep.
taste buds even more. So another huge budget saving tip is
Water.
do not have those drinks in your home. No.
They serve no purpose at all.
No, even, I mean, if you cannot win going sugar free, you're running into all those nasty artificial sweeteners
Yep.
that are going to hijack their brain. The sugar laden drinks are going to be really, really messing with them as well. And listen, moms of athletes, don't come at me with the, oh, we need a pre-workout, post-workout, during, you know, they've got to drink this way, eat this way.
The
Tell them-
Gatorade stuff.
Yes.
Oh, it's
Yes.
just
And
avoid
foods.
it.
And foods.
Yeah.
I mean, they'll market to those kids. Tell your child to look up Tom Brady's diet
Yes.
for longevity, for performance.
Yes, his diet is pretty remarkable.
Yeah, you might marry a supermodel. You never know. So tell him to look that up because he has a stellar diet. And I know we're not all dealing with NFL budgets. None of us are
No,
really.
but water's cheap.
Water is cheap.
I would probably invest in a filtration system of
Yes.
some sort,
Yes.
whether it's one of those pitchers or something that goes on your faucet, just to get rid of a lot of the nasty stuff that's in our municipal water.
Absolutely.
Because not everybody can afford, Mountain Valley spring water,
Right.
delivering their water to their
Right.
their house every
Yes.
week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even though that is what I would prefer,
Yeah.
that just doesn't happen at our house either.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. We bought a zero water filter situation so that it comes with a little digital measuring device, and your kids love measuring things and finding out how strong it is or whatever, and so they'll just grab water from tap and bottle and then that filter. And Hunter Faith, my 8-year-old, she will tell you when our filter, if it measures above a 6, she's like, it's time to change the filter.
She's on it.
It's
so
above
she's
a 6.
The keeper of the water, huh?
Yes, she is. And she'll tell you, you measure your tap water, it's going to be in the 30s. Don't do that.
I love
So-
her so much.
She's-
So we're that
I know that
sun
sun
is
is-
coming on in, isn't it? But that's okay. So water is one way that you can really help your budget. Just
Absolutely.
forego all the other nonsense.
Yeah.
Nothing good about them. And I even like, some people, but I just don't like water. Well, sometimes cucumbers and berries
Exactly.
are a great way just to add a hint of taste.
Yes.
And I like it like that also. And you might want to try that with your kids too.
100%. Let
Little
them.
orange slices maybe.
yeah.
Some blueberries.
Yeah.
Cover milk real quick.
What's that? Cover milk. Oh yeah,
Sure.
the milk situation. Not a fan of it.
No.
I don't like the milk they sell in the stores. It's been pasteurized, and the pasteurization process destroys a lot of the enzymes that you need to break it down.
Yes.
And and a lot of kids, we didn't evolve drinking glasses of milk.
Right.
We were milking the cow and then making cheese or yogurt with it and consuming it in that way.
Yes.
Which is much more healthy for your GI tract. But just simply using the milk, and I know they have gone on this ad campaign, the milk lobby, the dairy lobby, for decades now.
Sure.
They have hit it hard, but I avoid it at all costs. And we tell our patients too, because it's often a lot of the kids that drink a lot of the milk have a lot of problems.
A lot of problems.
A lot of I see eczema eczema, asthma, or other skin conditions, but they'll have bronchitis a lot or allergies. Get rid of the milk.
Yes.
First and foremost.
Especially this time of year. Let's thin out some of that mucus.
Yes.
Right? And
If they're always snotty, that might be one place that you could possibly eliminate.
Absolutely. And
And the almond milk is, it's doesn't taste like
same.
cow's milk, but they will get used to it.
Yeah, in this day and age, we have oat milk, rice milk, almond milk. You want to try to go for the unsweetened varieties, obviously,
Right.
or you're just bringing in more sugar. But their taste buds again will adapt, or maybe they just don't drink as much milk. We're not a dairy-free household by any stretch, but we don't have jugs of milk. We'll
Right.
do unsweetened almond milk. But if they don't want that, they'll mix it with they'll mix their cereal or their fruit with high quality yogurt, and they love that
Yeah.
just as much.
I would, if you're worried about calcium, because you're not drinking milk, just get over that,
Yes.
okay? Yogurt is a great way to go, so long as it's not those high sugar
Right.
content
Yes.
yogurts. Okay, you got to look at the sugar content.
Absolutely.
Have to.
Yes.
So we've talked about the dairy. Paul wanted us to point that out, and I think that's a good thing to point out. And then you had mentioned that you let your kids make their own lunches.
Yes.
Okay, tell us about how that started and how that's going.
Yeah. So the reason I do that is because I heard this quote one time where they were like, we're building Cadillacs, not Ferraris. Like, we're building these kids to last, and we don't want, if they put the wrong gas in the Ferrari and it chokes and dies on the side of the road, like, you know, we're wanting to make hearty, hefty kids. And so what I understand is that kids like mac and cheese. Kids like kid food. And so I'm going to choose what type of kid food we have in our household. You know, my kids like cheese. They like, you know, traditional kid type foods, but I'm going to choose the animal proteins we have. I'm going to choose, if we're doing any type of bread.
You're not choosing Kraft singles, right? Okay,
No.
Yeah. Don't even look at that stuff anymore.
No. And the Lunchables.
Oh, those are just, I know, and I see everybody send those in their kids' lunch boxes, and it just kind of makes me sad.
It is. You can make your own. You can bring your own Lunchables for sure.
What do they like to make for their lunches?
They'll do a Lunchable variety type of situation, but they will tell you, if you ask them, what do you have for lunch? We'll have a protein and a fruit and a veggie, and I mean, that's usually... And it always looks different. So a lot of the times they'll have their protein from the dinner that we had the night before.
Right,
They'll grab that
leftovers.
out of the fridge. But they'll say, what does your mom ask you every day at lunch? Did I get a fruit and veggie with it? You know, because one, they're still going to be hungry, but two, that's a great time to get those phytonutrients
Yes.
in. How how broad of a spectrum as far as color goes can your kid have? And we have those resources available. I send to our moms all the time of, print this out and give it to your kid.
Yep.
Let them check the boxes of what color foods they ate that day. Was it all brown and tan?
Not good.
No. Or did it have some diversity in
It
there?
looks like my closet. A lot of white,
Those are
brown,
your
gray.
colors. Your colors, though.
And I was going to, you know, if your kid is eating, if you're worried about your kid still being hungry after something that sounds so Spartan, when they're eating high quality food and they get that microbiome back in balance and they're not feeding a bunch of yeast overgrowth that occurs when you're eating a lot of processed foods and sugar,
Yes.
they're not going to be hungry all the
They're
time.
not going to be hungry as often. No. And when they
And you
are,
shouldn't freak out about that.
Exactly. You shouldn't demand that, that they, we have meal times, but if they don't feel like a snack that day, that's fine.
And do you make them clean their plate?
Mm-mm. No.
Good. Thank you.
No. We give them an appropriate amount of food to start with, and if they finish it, great. They want more, great.
Right.
If there's still a few bites left and they're just kind of looking at me like, you know,
Right.
they're not complaining, they're just done.
Yeah.
I think it's really important to honor that.
Yeah, you don't ever want force your kid to eat when they're not hungry. That's a very bad habit.
No,
We've got a lot of overweight people because of that right now.
absolutely. And just disrupted GI. Maybe they had a stressful last half of the day with classwork or something, and
Right.
they're
Or maybe they weren't that active that day.
exactly. Maybe their motility slowed down just a little bit. It's fine to honor that.
Yeah,
Yes.
cool. So how do you plan? Because that, I think, that's where really you can have all these great intentions and we can tell you all these wonderful things, but
Yes.
you better have a plan to make it happen.
Definitely. Without a plan, you're going to fail for sure. You leave this up to your willpower as a mom, and you're going to cave to your kids almost every single time. I do, and I've been doing this for a very long time.
You're tired, you've been working.
Tired.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to go for the convenient option that's familiar to everyone that you know no one's going to complain about.
Stouffer's lasagna. Stop it. No.
Exactly.
Yeah, I know it can taste good, but man, it's no.
No.
We can't do. You just
Especially not in the majority of the time. There's going to be exceptions. We have a lot of birthdays in this household, but if the majority of the time we're staying in our lane, not a big deal at all. Planning is absolutely key. Now you're hitting me as I come off of vacation, and I came home on a Monday, and goodness.
Oh wow, that really threw you off.
Exactly, because I'm making my menu for the week in my grocery list that I usually do, like a Kroger click list, or sometimes Walmart.
Do you have a deep freeze?
We don't. No, people would be astonished to know
Wow.
how limited our space is. We do go to the store more often than we want to.
Well, that's
because
okay.
Of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your stuff stays fresh when you're going.
That's
know.
true.
Now, I know nobody wants to go to the grocery store every few days, but sometimes it's necessary to
Yes.
unless you want to, if you buy a bunch of produce and it just goes bad.
Exactly.
Nobody wants to do that. That's a big waste of money too.
Exactly. Yes.
So you plan your meals out on a weekly basis?
Yes, and we keep it nice and simple, and that way I can ensure that we're not having animal protein every single night, that I know what snacks are going to be available in the house. And yeah, that we're not, we look at it realistically.
Do you let the kids get involved with the planning?
Occasionally, I will ask, especially if they're in the room with me. I'll be like, "Hey, what's your suggestion for dinner this week?" And Hunter loves pesto, so she's like, "Anything with pesto." And they all have different tastes, and different. Denver wants pad thai every single week, so
that's my child.
Sometimes we accommodate them, and sometimes we don't. But we do ask them if they're around, and we know we're not gonna, with 6 kids, you're not gonna hit it on.
Yeah. Where do you get your ideas? Do you go to Pinterest? Because I'm always on there on Pinterest trying to find stuff.
I can get overwhelmed. I really think that that's amazing that women can go on there. And I remember whenever I was finishing IIN and even the board certification, like there were people that would leave those programs and be like, "I'm going to create a blog, or I'm going to write a book." And I'm like, I will read your book. I cannot wait to look at your blog. There's a fellow graduate of mine named Megan who started a website called Detoxinista, and she's a mom of 2 now, and she has fantastic recipes, simple, tried and true, that I know our family appreciates.
What's the name of her blog?
Detoxinista.
Detoxinista.
Yes, detoxinista.com.
She gets your stamp of approval.
My stamp of approval.
Okay, that's a big deal.
Yes.
All right, guys, write that down.
Yes. Even if lots of what we would probably consider dessert ideas, but under all of her tabs, if there's specific nut allergies or candida recipes, things like that, where you just need to refine it a little bit more, she'll do that. She does have books, but she's kind of shot herself in the foot because her blog is just too good.
Yeah, it's great. I mean,
yeah.
I wish I could get myself together enough to do something like that, but I try. There was one thing I do want to point out is whenever you make significant changes to your kids' diet, especially in the sugar department, something can occur, especially if you do this really quickly. Okay, I would always recommend just gradually cutting back on the sugar, because if they have candida overgrowth, which we're seeing a lot of in kids now, the die-off can be significant when you remove the fuel and their food source.
Yes.
They will die off, and it's the die-off is very toxic. It can cause flu-like symptoms in some, behavior changes in others. So if that happens, it might be short-lived, but if it happens, kind of maybe slow things down, like you said. And rule out food sensitivities. If you have a child who is, you're feeding him healthy, but he's still struggling in the temper tantrum department, or meltdowns, or struggling in school. You have got to rule out, or if they have like eczema or some kind of chronic condition, allergies is a big one.
Yeah.
GERD. You've got to rule out food sensitivities. Kids who have ADHD are 7 times more likely to have a food sensitivity. And so the most common ones are your gluten or wheat products, dairy, and dairy it could be the whey component, it could be the casein component, could be the lactose component, or some other type of protein. Eggs, corn, soy, legumes sometimes, probably because they're not being prepared correctly, and nuts. And so those are the most common, but you can have a food sensitivity to any food.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So how do we determine that?
Yeah.
What do we do?
Well, we do a fantastic elimination diet, a formal elimination diet. And this actually, like you say all the time, do it once, do it right. Instead of eliminating gluten for a month or a couple of weeks, and then moving on to another item, and before you know it, your child's been doing an elimination plan for 6 months. Yeah, don't do that. Just take a month and eliminate what we ask you to, and then the all-important step of formally reintroducing it.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I love to get the kids on the Zoom call
Mm-hmm.
with their parents when we're doing a consultation, and I'm like, get them on here. First, let me be the bad guy, talk to them about why we need to eliminate these foods, but second, let me talk to them about how important this is that we reintroduce these foods properly.
Right. Every 3 days is typically what we're doing, right? Because it can take up to 3 days to realize you have reacted to something. It's not always immediate. It can take up to 3 days before you feel that.
That's right. And it might be to something. What I love about the elimination plan is that it's so empowering. You will know moving forward if you have a response and you're not quite sure where it came from, look at what you've had. If there's anything new there, eliminate it. Give it at least a couple weeks out of your diet, and then formally reintroduce it. But doing the formal elimination plan for 30 days just equips you so beautifully to be able to know how to navigate food sensitivities for the rest of your life, because your health is never going to be static, and neither will your children's. And so to be able to know how to navigate that as a mom and teach them how to navigate it. It's how Denver, my oldest, figured out and we're having cauliflower tonight, but she's sensitive to cauliflower.
Wow.
It makes her dizzy.
Okay.
I mean, gives her a little headache, makes her a little dizzy. Well, I'm not going to be like, hey, it's good for you. Get over it.
No, it's not good for you if it makes you dizzy. Something about it.
Exactly. I'm going to say, listen to that and eliminate it for a while. And she did, and she brought it back in. But she wants to be gluten-free, and so cauliflower, everything these days.
Oh, and it's not even good.
Yeah, she found she was really having a reaction to it. So paying attention to that, she feels very empowered now to know if I want to feel my best.
Right.
I'm
We all want to feel our best, and there's a lot of elimination and reintroduction diets out on the market. I found most of them to be lacking in strategy and can provide a lot of bad results.
Absolutely.
When we do it, we're actively working on rehabbing the gut lining, because there's usually a lot of gut permeability involved because you've been eating so badly.
Yes.
And so you have to make sure that you're working on your gut health before you start reintroducing those foods.
Exactly.
Reintroducing foods back onto a leaky gut or a permeable gut is going to give you bad results. You're going to react to a food that you probably will do fine with once your gut is healed.
Exactly. Yes.
All right. So I think something just slipped my mind. I was going to ask you about it. Oh well. So have we missed anything? I'm trying to. I do want to mention this. I'll take the time to mention this. There was. I've used this particular patient in a presentation I've done before, but because his results were so remarkable when we cleaned up his diet and determined his food sensitivities.
Yes.
This kid was struggling. Was given the diagnosis of ADHD. ADHD. His parents did not want to put him on medications. He was having horrible eczema to the point where his mom was having to wrap his arms because he would scratch them so badly during the night. Didn't even realize that they would just be bloody the next morning. And he had eczema, and he was struggling so badly in school.
Yes.
Just not doing well at all. And we did basically a little total gut job on him, a little revised version of that. And it was incredible. His eczema went away. He was no longer needing allergy medications because they were using all kinds of allergy Zyrtec and stuff like that. And they determined he had issues with gluten.
Yes.
And they removed that, and his school performance just took off, and he started growing.
Yes.
His growth started taking off as well.
Yes.
In no time at all.
Yeah.
And it was such a dramatic response, and we see, they might not always be that dramatic, but there's some that are.
Yes.
Kids who have had GERD their whole life couldn't even lay back down in a dental chair without it, producing horrible symptoms, and now no problems at all.
Yeah.
And they're feeling so much better. And there's just all these kids that are coming to my mind now, and I still keep track of them and their parents on social media, and they're just like, man, she's grown 4 inches and since she saw you, and she's just doing great. And that is just music to our ears, because that's why we do what we do.
Absolutely.
You and I have been patients before.
Yes.
We have had our very own health struggles.
Absolutely.
You especially.
Yeah.
And me too. And we just I don't want to see anybody go through what we've had to go through.
And every one of those moms that you're talking about, I think if you ask them, hey, did doing this change your budget grocery-wise? They would have said, oh, I don't care at all. Are you kidding me? Look at my child, right?
And most of them will say it really didn't have that much of an impact either, because they're no longer buying all the processed foods
or the medications
or the medications, the trips to the doctors, and all that. Yeah,
exactly. And their kids are empowered and excited. I know a couple of the kids you're talking about, and goodness, they are our biggest advocates. I mean, they are.
I know.
They're little spokespeople, aren't they?
They are.
So cute.
All right. Should we just wrap it up and let's just go through your top things that you could recommend right now to our parents who are really wanting to make changes?
Yes. Well, I think if you are married, have a conversation. You want to be on the same team.
And if it's your child's health, I think that's probably, you're not going to have too much pushback on that.
But moms, if one entry point into the conversation is, hey, I want to make sure we're pursuing better health to save our family money in the long run,
and do it as a family.
Exactly.
I think everybody has to be kind of on board.
Absolutely.
Right?
Mom and dad need to get on board first, and
because it's going to help you too.
Exactly, and then bring the kids on board with a united front of, hey, here's what we're doing, and as you said, transition slowly. Let's not cause this major significant detox of the whole family where
everybody's got flu-like symptoms at the same
Jerry
time.
Springer at the dinner table and everybody's sick in bed. Let's not do that. But let's maybe start with breakfast and do that for a week. And then let's move on to lunch, or for our family, again, we really focus on breakfast and dinner. And making sure those are the 2 top quality meals, and then working on snacks.
Right. That's a big one.
Yes. And I know some people are all or nothing. Let go of that. Really focus on what you're doing the majority of the time, what your kids are doing the majority of the time.
You're not perfect. We don't expect you to be. We're not perfect.
No. But the budget savers are getting rid of those drinks, getting rid of those items that are specifically marketed towards kids. You are buying small quantities of very expensive, low quality food. Don't do that.
Yeah.
That's a budget killer, even though it's so exciting to watch your little one gobble it down and you feel good about them having a good snack. No, give them something else. So moving away from those kid foods will save so much money. Moving away from the drinks will save so much money. Getting rid of the big jugs of milk that you're going through on a daily basis will
they
save
do not
money.
need that.
Yeah.
And then they might push back on the milk, but they'll get over it.
Yeah, those dopamine receptors will take 30 days to heal up from how downregulated they are from that milk.
Yes,
and then they'll be okay. So, transition easily with them. I know we are going into holiday season, and most kids are sick from Halloween to Easter because it is just sugar and candy.
It is.
It's
sad.
It does not have to be that way. Don't cave into that. We let our kids celebrate and have those days. It's not the day. It's not Halloween or Thanksgiving or Christmas or Easter. It's the leftover piles of candy that last for weeks and weeks and weeks. That's what needs to be taken care of, and you can be as creative as you want with that. Or you can let them have one thing, at the once a week or something. Just teaching them moderation.
Do they when they eat a piece of candy? Did they feel it? I mean, do they?
Well,
Depends on what it is.
totally depends on what it is, and they know first and foremost we're looking for those food dyes.
Yeah.
And then we're looking for the sugar content, and they all have their favorites, and honestly,
mine.
yeah, exactly. And we're real choosy because if we let them have that on a Friday night, well, they don't have school the next day.
Right.
We know what to expect.
Yeah,
of
yeah,
them.
yeah.
So just thinking through things like
Right.
that. But it also, as far as budget goes, thinking through how many times a week are we having meat? Again, is your spouse the one that's really wanting that meat and potatoes, or can we get on board with some stews and some soups?
Y'all do
and
eggs a
some-
lot?
We do. We have quite a few eggs. No one has an egg sensitivity.
Oh, thank
here.
goodness.
That is a really sweet thing.
Yeah, I can't eat them, and I love
I
them.
know, I know.
Sad.
And they're a budget safer.
They are. And do you buy the cage free?
We do. We buy the happy eggs.
Good.
Right now is the best we can find at the store, but our neighbor also
Has chickens?
gives them
That's
to us
great.
as well. So we're very grateful for that.
And everybody wants to kind of, and we're going to end just shortly, but everybody freaks out about the prices of the cage-free eggs. But that is still a super cheap protein source.
Really is.
I mean, don't everybody's so accustomed to this super cheap egg price
Yeah.
that when they see the cage free, they freak out. But you're still getting so much.
It's less than
for
$1
that.
a meal. For
Exactly.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
think of
for
it
sure.
in that terms. Okay, I didn't mean to
Absolutely.
interrupt and. Paul's doing this thing right here, telling me to like wrap it up. Okay, all right. Any other parting words of wisdom, Annie Hale?
Those are the big ones, but I would say sit with yourself for a moment and think through how you want to feel about how you fed your family, and project 10 years from now. How do you want your kids to be as teenagers as far as their health and their food addictions or lack thereof?
Yeah.
Just sit with yourself and think through those things, visualize that, and then set your plan accordingly. Move gently into that transition. It's going to be unique to you. It's going to be different than what mine looks like.
Yeah.
But do that, and don't second guess yourself, and set up a consultation if you need to talk
Yes.
through it.
If you are overwhelmed and you need some guidance, she is your go-to.
We will talk.
Yes, and she's just such a great source of wisdom. She's done this. She knows what she's talking about. We are on the same page.
Absolutely.
So, you have to do this. Your kids' life is at stake.
Absolutely.
And I'm not being overly dramatic, but I most of the issues that we are facing today, or that our children are facing today, with all these, they're having more and more chronic issues, and that is very disturbing to me.
Yes.
But it's because of what you're letting them put into their mouths.
Absolutely.
The food is either it can either help you or harm you.
Exactly.
And it's really your choice, okay? And you do have a choice,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely. And there's a difference between common and normal. I know it might be common to look around and see their peers with acne and eczema and allergies and thyroid issues. That's common. It is not normal.
No, it's not.
normal.
Let's stop making it common, and let's start getting back to normal.
Yes.
Right? Okay. Well, thank you so much, Annie.
It's such an honor.
I always, whatever.
It is.
I love coming over here because I love your house, and I love your kids, and love you. And we both just got back from Colorado, so we're sharing stories. And so anyway, I hope you guys found this to be very informative and have learned something. And if anything, have walked away with knowing that you can't keep feeding your kids processed crap and expecting them to act well, because they're not.
Yes.
They're just not going to do that. So anyway, if you feel overwhelmed and you want some guidance, please reach out to us and schedule some time with Annie. She would love to help you, and I've seen her help so many people. And it's not as hard as you think it's going to be.
Absolutely.
And it's going to be worth it. All right. Thanks, guys, and we will see you soon.
Definitely. Bye-bye.
I don't take nothing that a doctor don't prescribe. I don't do no drugs, man. I don't do no drugs, man. I don't smoke no bud, man. I don't do no drugs, man. It angers up that blood, man, so I don't do no drugs. I just take pack sales and Xol